Never did anyone think in their wildest dreams that when we talk about NASCAR's silly season, Kyle Busch would show up on that list, but unfortunately, that's how it seems to be the case. Kyle Busch, at the moment, does not have a ride for 2023. This whole saga began, I think, late last year when M&M's announced that they would not return to NASCAR and to the number 18 car in 2023. And since then, JGR and Toyota has worked relentlessly to try and get a sponsor to keep Kyle Busch, their number one driver, in Toyota and at JGR. But right now, it looks like things are getting worse. Still, no deal has been signed, and we're already near the end of July. And usually around this time when, this is when teams start filling up or at least confirming their contractual obligations around this time, around July, August, September for next year. And the fact that Kyle Busch still does not have a deal, that they have not had a sponsor this deep into the season where they're in heavy talks yet, is very concerning. The reality of it is that JGR can't pay Kyle Busch. That comes from corporate sponsorship, from M&M's. They basically pay Kyle's salary. So now the goal is to try and find a sponsor, because it looks like that Kyle's not willing to take a pay cut. So now you have to try and find a sponsor that's willing to pay so much to keep Kyle Busch. Remember, Kyle Busch, he's not some C+ driver that gets occasional top 10s, or maybe contends for a win here and there. No, he is one of the best, if not the best driver currently in the Cup Series. A 60-time Cup winner, a 2-time Cup champion. He is box office for NASCAR in terms of his driving skills and his personality. So of course, if you're going to want him to drive your car, you're going to have to pay a lot of money. And Toyota Racing Development President David Wilson is saying that that process is just not looking good. I wish I could handicap it for you, but I just can't. We're in a bad place right now. We've got some tremendously heavy lifting in front of us. I used the baseball analogy in that a couple of months ago, it was much easier to imagine success. And we had some partners that we thought we were going to land. And that was at the bottom of the 3rd inning. Now we're in the bottom of the 7th. And the fact is that we don't have it yet. Because it's taking this long, and the fact that they're not even talking. That's another thing we need to point out. It's not like you look at Hendrick Motorsports, Jimmie Johnson 2018. When Lowe's announced that they were going to be leaving in March, Hendrick was talking to sponsors, even up as late as October when it was announced that Ally would sponsor Jimmie Johnson. They were still talking with sponsors relentlessly. They were always talking. With Kyle, it seemed as though they can't even get a sponsor to really get this deep into contractual talks with Kyle. Because of that, I just have this feeling that we're not going to see Kyle Busch in the 18 car in 2023. It's as the days goes by, that chance, it just looks like that chance is getting smaller, smaller, and smaller. And I just don't see it. Again, it's a possibility that very late into the season, or maybe they're just holding it out. There's a possibility. Anything can happen in racing. But from what we're hearing, it just seemed as though that the chance of Kyle Busch returning to JGR is just not looking like it just doesn't look good. And Kyle Busch even said he's talking to different teams. He's talking to different teams about where to drive for 2023. The fact that it's getting that bad. Again, I look back at Johnson and Hendrick. There was never a report of Johnson talking to other teams. Never a report like that. But the fact that Kyle is talking to other teams about what to do for next year, that tells me that he doesn't think that they're going to get a deal done. You wouldn't talk to other teams if you didn't think that you were going to get a deal done to keep driving for your old team. So what happens? What happens now? Where does Kyle go? Let's say, in the wildest of circumstances, Kyle Busch does not return to JGR in 2023. Where would he go? Now, again, he said he's talking to teams. But I don't know, what would you count as teams that Kyle will be willing to drive for? The phrase talking to teams is very vague. It could be simple as someone giving you a phone call just to get started with talks. It doesn't have to be such deep conversation. It could just be a simple phone call or a text message. Just to, hey, we're here, we would like to talk. Something like that. So to say that talking with teams is a very vague phrase. But when we take a look at the market on the cars that are available for 2023, there's only one top team that at least confirming that there will be a ride open, and that's Stewart-Haas Racing in the 10 car. Now the thing is, with Smithfield, we don't know what Smithfield's future like in NASCAR since they came into NASCAR with Eric Almirola in 2012, and they've been with Eric Almirola since the beginning. When Eric left Richard Petty Motorsports for Stuart Haas, Smithfield went with them. So when Eric Almirola, it looks like he will retire at the end of this year, will Smithfield stay on board? And if they do stay on board, are they going to be willing to pay Kyle Busch the same, or at least close to the same amount that Kyle got with M&M's at JGR? Again, Smithfield has dumped a lot of money into NASCAR and to Eric Almirola. Are they going to be willing to do the same with Kyle Busch? At least more than likely, if you're going to have Kyle Busch drive for you, you're probably going to have to pay more than what you've been paying Eric Almirola. Now, there are two companies or two teams that I have in mind of what if. It's so astronomically low, but racing has proved me that to say never say never. One of them is Trackhouse, and it's their Project 91 car. Now, I know the whole point of Project 91 is to allow international drivers like Kimi Räikkönen to come into NASCAR to try it out. I get that. But, again, we have to talk about the driver that's on the free market, and that is Kyle Busch. He's a free agent. You're telling me you're going to pass up on an opportunity to try and get him in your car? Trackhouse has a ton of sponsors that are lined up. You know, with Freeway Insurance, K1 Speed, yada, yada, yada. I can go on and on. There's a bunch of sponsors. GoPro. There's a ton of sponsors that are lined up with Trackhouse. Again, the only issue is with money. If those sponsors can maybe come together to be able to help pay off what Kyle is asking for, then maybe, just maybe, Kyle can go to Trackhouse. Now, of course, things with Project 91, yes, they do have a car and they do have a team ready. They have that going on. The only issue would be is a charter. And this will maybe involve Chevy bringing in some leverage, maybe kind of pushing NASCAR to give them a charter for that third team. Chevy will pay for it or whatever. Maybe Chevy will take care of it just so that they can be able to take in Kyle Busch and to keep him with their team. Or Kyle could stay in Toyota but go to 2311 Racing. Now, Tyler Reddick, we know he's going to be joining the team in 2024. 2023, he's supposed to drive for RCR. But in the odd of circumstances, in the most random, like astronomically small chance of happening, what if there is a driver swap? Maybe RCR gives up Reddick to go to JGR to take over that 18 car, because if Tyler Reddick were to go to JGR, they would pay a smaller price, obviously, than for Kyle Busch. Kyle would go to RCR. And maybe, who knows, again, RCR, they have a lot of sponsors lined up with Cheddar, Guaranteed Rate, 3Chi. They have a lot of sponsors lined up that can maybe, again, like I said, be able to help fill that gap to be able to help pay for Kyle Busch. And then maybe Reddick, for that 1 year on loan, Toyota would take care of that whole issue with Tyler Reddick and his contract before he goes on to 2311 Racing in 2024. If that makes sense. I'm pretty sure it's very illegal to do what I just said, but I don't know. Like, I feel like there has to be a way for Kyle Busch to be in a Toyota or be in a top ride in 2023. Because what I think a big possibility, and this is a big if possibility, maybe Kyle doesn't drive for another team next year. Again, we're talking about top teams. It's not like, it's not like a couple of years ago when there was a lot of top teams available. Again, with 2011 Racing, they were opening up a new team. With Trackhouse, they had, they had a car lined up. Hendrick didn't have all their drivers signed on at the moment. Maybe, or someone with Penske, maybe, there was a spot opening with the 2 car that was there a couple of years ago. There were spots available a couple of years ago for, let's say, Kyle could have went to had he wasn't signed on to Gibbs. But now that he's on the free market, he's a free agent, and there's only really one top spot available, and that's the 10 car at SHR. Yeah, you got Petty GMS with the 42 car available. Yeah, you got Colleague. They could use that 16 car instead of being a part-timer for Gregson, Hemrick, and Allmendinger and have that used for Kyle. They could do that. I won't be surprised if they did. But again, I feel like Kyle wants to be with a top team, that wants to be with a team that is ready to win races and championships. Petty is nowhere near that, and Colleague just started. They're not ready to race for wins. Where else could he go outside of Gibbs and SHR? Where else could he go? Again, it sounds crazy. It sounds stupid even. But if he can't go to those two areas, where could he go? I mean, could he take a sabbatical? I mean, he's not old. He's still in his mid-30s. Could Kyle maybe take a step back, not race in 2023, come back in 24 if there is a spot open? I don't know, but I just can't see any option if he doesn't go to JGR and he doesn't go to Stewart-Haas in the 10 car. Kyle's not going to be in a top team if he doesn't get either one of those two rights. If he doesn't get the 18, doesn't get the 10, he's not going to drive for a top team. I think colleague could be the most likely option, because even though colleague they are a top team in the Xfinity Series, yeah, they just started in Cup, but maybe colleague down the line could be a top contending team. But at the moment, they're not ready. They're not there yet. That's really maybe the only other option I could see is maybe colleague. If it's not SHR or Joe Gibbs, maybe colleague, but that's it. The window of opportunity for Kyle Busch to sign on to a top team is closing rapidly. And I just don't see, with the way the reports are going and the way the quotes. That's another thing that I think that I need to bring up is the quoting of David Wilson and of Kyle Busch. Again, with David, you're going to try to be positive. You're going to be like, oh yeah, we're going to get Kyle Busch signed off. The fact that he's admitting that, yeah, hey, look, we're in a bad place right now. We can't get a sponsor. And the fact that Kyle Busch is literally saying, yeah, I'm looking at other teams. I'm talking to other teams. You wouldn't say that. You wouldn't say you're talking to other teams if you didn't believe that your team could get a sponsor for you. If you thought your team can't get a sponsor, then you start looking for teams or looking at other teams. The fact that Kyle's doing that tells me he's not confident. He doesn't think he's going to be back in the 18 car next year. Again, like I said, that window of opportunity is closing rapidly as the days go by. And the longer we wait, I think we may have to come to grips of Kyle Busch not coming back to JGR next year. At the beginning, it sounded crazy. Everyone thought that Kyle Busch would be at Joe Gibbs for the rest of his career, at least with in the M&M's car, at the very least with Joe Gibbs. We thought he'd be there forever. But I think we now have to come to terms that maybe that relationship between the two is going to end prematurely. And if it does, again with Kyle, there's only two other options: either Stewart-Haas Racing or colleague. I don't know where else he could go, but yeah, it's gonna be very, very interesting to see what happens to Kyle Busch as the weeks go by. And but what are your thoughts on this? Where do you think Kyle Busch could go in 2023? Do you think he could go back with Gibbs? Do you think he'll go to SHR, replace Almirola, maybe with a startup team like colleague, or even if a petty GMS car, maybe? Or do you think he may take a sabbatical next year and come back in 24? I don't know. At this point, you may throw all options on the table, because it's just mind-boggling to know that we're this late into the year and still we haven't heard any big leads on Kyle Busch. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more content. Until next time, my name is Jett from MDK. Thanks for watching.